Welcome to the Wolf Den. This is your host, the Wolf Daddy, and I have with me two personnel that you guys are going to immediately recognize them from the news and from working with them personally. All right, we have Mr. Holland, who was an ADW, and Mark Hasz, who was the lieutenant, and you guys are all aware that they were terminated by this department going on almost 4 years ago. And they've been all over the news, and we've been doing this trial. And although this video is not about the trial because it's lengthy, we'll get to that later. This is not over with, but you guys know that they were just, this was exonerated. They found Mr. Hasz not guilty after 4 years, and there was a lot of shit that we put up with from the department making statements, claims, and the courts. It was kind of odd. You guys will get to see is that the courts were saying they were helping us along, but it looks to me, and this is like my personal statement, it doesn't make it a fact, but it seems that the court, even the courts were against us, man, because we did not get a speedy trial. The state fought us every step of the way. They wouldn't provide materials, not even to their own prosecutors, videos, and the court, instead of holding them to contempt and all that, didn't do nothing and let it go. And that's the subject for another video. So if you're wondering what we're doing here today is we're going to have a little round robin here, and it has to do with the dangers that you guys are going to face now that this is over and it's out in the open, and the department has been literally beat the hell down. Okay, they thought they were going to beat us down, and they happened to pick on two people that were members of a union and who were serious enough to see this through. And usually if this would happen to you, and I'm not a recruiter, I'm not saying recruit, this is not about recruiting and all that, but if you're not a union member, be prepared with a lot of money and time and lawyers, okay? And greasing people just to get to that point. And the department has known that for years, that you guys don't fight back, so they usually get away with it. But this time, they made a big mistake. They took on something that's way bigger than they should have, and they lost in the end. And that's what we want to get today, is the dangers that you guys now are facing and still facing that was revealed, right? It was revealed in this trial. And today we're going to particularly, we're going to focus in on one guy who to me is the guy who took down DOC for their case. This is why they lost. This guy who works for the director, his name is Delgado, Ernesto Delgado, you guys know him. He's some kind of training administrator. This is the guy who does your policies, training. In his own admission, you're going to see in video and testimony that he's the one that changes policy and tells you what you can and cannot do. And he went up on the stand representing the Department of Corrections and lied after he took an oath. It's recorded. It's the most suicidal thing I've ever seen. They must have thought that the court was going to rule for them, and even the judge was against them, as you'll see in some of these clips we're going to do. So first of all, what do you guys, what's your feeling? Hasz, how do you feel now that this is over, and now that you got to see all the repercussions and all these dirtbags? What do you want to say to staff about that?
You guys need to watch your back. This department, at all costs, will pursue you if you do something against them, blow the whistle on them. They'll come after you, they'll lie, cheat, and steal to make sure that their plot is successful and that you take a plea deal, a diversion, whatever they want to put out there. They'll hide videos. Like I said, they'll lie. But then, they were caught in contempt of court hiding videos. The judge ruled saying that the videos were being hidden. And
did the judge do anything about that, by the way?
No, the judge actually told the prosecutors that he would be notifying the jury when the trial came. He said this in court. But when the trial came, he didn't tell them anything, and we couldn't even bring it up, the fact they're hiding the videos that I was in. That's the videos they hid, is the ones that I was in. They tried to hide the fact of how things happen in prison. So yeah, they, at all costs, had to win, and they lost. They found out.
And when you were fired, because you were fired, yeah, correct? Didn't they put you on the news right away?
Yes, the day it all occurred, they called myself in and Sean Holland at 7:30 in the morning into James Kimball's office, and they fired us with paperwork, not even saying why, just saying we were being dismissed. We signed our paperwork and drove home. The minute I got home, I got an email from the prosecutor's office with my discovery, which we've been waiting for months. So with the video, the actual use of force, because I hadn't seen it since the incident. Within 5 minutes of getting that video, my phone was getting blown up saying we were on the news. So the prosecutor's office and DOC were in cahoots on that day. The prosecutor's office didn't open up any discovery until the hour they put us on the news. So they worked as a team to take us down, and it was a planned event.
So here's the curious thing. You were put on the news. So, Mr. Holland, here's the thing. You were fired as well.
That's correct.
But you weren't put on the news.
Yeah.
Your mugshot. You were not put on mugshot. They didn't prosecute. They weren't going after you. They were going after Hasz.
That's correct.
So why were you fired?
That's a really good question. They fired me. There was the same thing on my paperwork, just like on Haz's. Just you're being dismissed. But from what I was told, they believed I lied on my report. But largely it's because I'm a whistleblower, just like Hasz. They came after us. See, Hasz and I, we didn't violate policy. We didn't violate state law. We were fighting to uphold policy and state law. And because we were in their way of going against that, they systematically targeted both of us and removed us. And it's that simple. And they waited till they had a reason, which was this use of force, which it turned out was not a crime. And
After 4 years.
after 4 years, yes,
Let's
after
get
4
that
years,
straight.
Not a felony or a misdemeanor.
not a felony or a misdemeanor, and experts on both sides, prosecution and defense, stated the use of force was great. It was like perfect, and so they created a situation. They demonized us. They said that we were monsters in the prison system using excessive force. They even, if you remember right on the news that day, they had an inmate advocacy person up there talking about how use of force is always being used the wrong way and helping paint us in this light like we were just these evil people.
And I got a question for both of you. If you're whistleblowers and we knew that, and everyone's know it, and then you were fired, how come why didn't the jury weigh that in that you guys were whistleblowers?
The judge wouldn't allow that to be told to the jury. It was very strict before certain people testified, like Sean Holland. He was reminded by the prosecutors he could not bring it up. They blocked everything. They blocked the fact they were hiding the videos. We couldn't even tell them that we were fired. The jury was still under the impression I was still employed. Even though.
Holland, what were you doing this whole time? I gotta ask.
Just like Haz's, my life was ruined, absolutely destroyed. We were, Hasz more than I, crucified on the news. We can't get work. I went to school.
Yeah.
Nothing fun.
Okay,
My life was
so
ruined.
this is not about the trial. We just want to give you a little taste. We're going to do and release the trial. You guys, listen. When you get home, a lot of you like to have a soft drink, relax, work out, do whatever, watch YouTube or scan these stupid phones like we all do. Time thief of a phone. It takes up all your time. Take the time to go through this trial and prepare yourself. This is already coming your way, and you're going to see why. So we're going to concentrate on one part of the trial here, and that is it for today. And you guys need to, I'm telling you, pay attention. This guy took down DOC, but he is still there, and he will take you down with what you're about to see. This is his own testimony. This ain't me. I've got his written testimony and video that we're going to show you, okay? So his name's Ernesto Delgado. Currently he works for the Department of Corrections, Rehabilitation, and blah, blah, blah. He's the Training Administrator. Again, this is the guy who does policy. You're going to see in a minute what he claims, what's his qualifications. He blows so much smoke, I had to get up. So much smoke was being blown up my ass, I had to get up in that courtroom so I could breathe. Okay, so here we are. We're going to talk about what the state did. They brought up an expert witness. They brought up several of them. One expert witness was all for us, said what I saw was good. Then at the end, when it turned to a bench trial, they make a mistake and bring another guy, and this guy didn't even review that guy. So they stepped all over their foot right on the top of the stage there, and the judge is watching them, and it's pretty horrible. So the first thing I want to do is tell you what this guy did, and then we'll comment on it. He's brought up to the stand. They asked him to describe himself. He said, "Good afternoon. Yeah, my name is Ernesto Delgado. I currently work for Arizona Department of Corrections, Rehabilitation, and Reentry as the Training Administrator." They asked him, "What's your background? Is it law enforcement?" He goes, "Yes, I've been in corrections for over 20 years. Watch this clip.
Getting to the witness now, Mr. Delgado, if you'll just briefly introduce yourself to the court.
Good afternoon. Yeah, my name is Ernesto Delgado. I currently work for Arizona Department of Corrections, Rehabilitation and Reentry as the Training Administrator.
And then can you just provide a summary of your background, training, and experience as it relates to law enforcement and use of force?
Yes, I've been in corrections for over 20 years. Started my career back in October of 2002 at Pima County Sheriff's Department as a correction officer. During my tenure at Pima County Sheriff's Office, I was a general instructor. I became a general instructor where I taught use of force, I taught tactical operations, and I also taught at the academy level, specifically when it comes to use of force. I was there doing that for about 2 years before I ended up coming over to Arizona Department of Corrections in 2007, where I worked at a Tucson complex. I was there for about 6 months before I went over to Pinal County Sheriff's Office in October of 2007, where I ended up spending the rest of my career before coming to AZCRR. When I was at Pinal County Sheriff's Office, I promoted to the ranks. I was an officer, came in as an officer, promoted to a corporal. With my background in the use of forces and in the tactical operations, I was tasked to go to the training department to train tactical operations and use of forces at the training center. During my time at Pinal County Sheriff's Office, as a corporal, as a lower supervisor, I started reviewing use of force reports and video incidents of officers throughout the correctional portion of the agency. And then when I promoted to sergeant, I began a bigger role where I was able to review all use of force and tactical operations that happened at the facility. As a sergeant, I was also assigned and I tested for and I became a SWAT member for Pinal County Regional SWAT Team, with the emphasis of every operation is to understand the proper way of application of use of force, especially in a tactical and in high alert type of environment. When I was also as a sergeant there at Pinal County Sheriff's Office, I also developed the first jail tactical team, which included policies and procedures, training, and all reporting and proper, accurate reporting of all training and weaponry that's involved of developing a team, working collaboratively with the county attorney's office during that time. When I was also at the sheriff's office, I was myself involved in use of forces, so I know what it's like to see it from an eye perspective of an officer. But also, I also reviewed all the use of forces during my last part of a sergeant before I was assigned to a specialty unit at the sheriff's office called Ghost. Ghost is a team formed by the sheriff that allowed me as a correctional officer to go out there with sworn patrol officers to make arrests on the most violent crimes or criminals in the county and outside and throughout the state. During that time, I was able to learn not only more about the applying use of force on the patrol side, but to learn the differences between use of forces out there by utilizing ground factors through the Fourth Amendment for the patrol side to oppose the Eighth Amendment, and also in the correctional side. I promoted through the rank of lieutenant, and as a lieutenant, I was in charge of the whole operation of a shift of the department for the correction side. I was in charge of approximately 52 employees, to include 12 sergeants. I oversee the whole operations to include finalizing and reviewing the use of forces from my staff from below. In 2020, I came over to Arizona Department of Correction as a Training Officer 3 here at AZCRR. As a Training Officer 3, I was able to go to all the complexes to make sure that trainings that are being provided to each individual prison complex were done based off curriculum and making sure they're following the curriculum that is set. Approximately about 2 years ago, I promoted to the Training Administrator, which now I oversee all curriculum to make sure that they're in compliance with what current trend settings and actual laws to make sure that it's in compliant with the training that we're providing staff. One thing I'm going to go back on is that as a use of force instructor, I am also an Arizona Post Defensive Tactic Instructor. I've been an Arizona Post Defensive Tactic Instructor since 2010, and I've been able to train tactical or defensive tactic techniques, not only to the agency that I'm at, but also other law enforcement agencies throughout the entire state. That is my extent of my experience and what I am as for my work job. Yes.
Now that you guys watched it, we got a comment on something here. Hasz, did you catch that he said 20 years, but actually he's only been working in the Department of Correction 6 months?
6 months. He worked
6 months.
corrections. I believe what he stated was he started out with county, then he came to the Department of Corrections,
Correct.
did 6 months in a detention.
Correct.
Due to his ability to deal with difficult inmates. Left after 6 months and went to Pinal County, correct?
Correct. And he did everything from being SWAT to, this guy was like a ninja according to him. He goes through like, I swear to God, you'll see like 20 minutes of talking about himself. He even was part of a sheriff's team called Ghost. Yeah, like the military, Ghost, that has to do with going out and helping with violent crime. This is what happens. Already we got off on the wrong foot. We get a guy up there who reinvents himself. He did, absolutely reinvents himself. He talks in this little Shakespeare voice that you guys heard there and comes up with a million things when actually all he did was 6 months in the Department of Corrections.
Is that 6 months total in corrections?
It was total.
So he got up there and just started with a bold-faced lie.
He started with a bold-faced lie. He even says in a part that when he got to the unit, they thought, oh, because of your expertise, we're going to put you in this kind of position. And it was just, he was just amping himself. Our hackles already went up on that part.
Wow. Okay.
Just on that. Okay. Here's the next part. He says, as a training officer 3, when he first started with in Department of Corrections, he was able to go to all the complexes to make sure the trainings that are being provided by each individual prison complex were done based off curriculum and making sure that following the curriculum that is set. Approximately 2 years ago, I promoted to the Training Administrator, which is why they're using him as an expert witness, which now I oversee all curriculum to see. This is important for you, to make sure that they're in compliance of what the current trend settings and actual laws, to make sure that it is in compliance with training that we're providing to staff. That is a big statement to say, providing what he's going to go. So let me ask you, Holland, you were an ADW. When someone tells you that they're in charge of that, do they have the authority then to do everything from look at uses of force to say something was wrong with that use of force or not? I mean, this guy is the training guy. He set up that curriculum, correct?
Yeah, if he's the training administrator to set up that curriculum, he does have the right to look at all that.
So can I ask you, he's the man in charge?
For use of force, self-defense, yeah.
So let's say there's a new training curriculum, which there is, and we've looked at it. This is the guy. This is his handiwork. Correct?
Yes.
I just wanted to get that out here before we continue, okay?
Absolutely.
Okay, so he says here, when he was reviewing the materials, they asked him about the ultimate conclusion and the reasonableness of the reasonableness of the takedown in this particular incident. He said, yes, I reviewed all that. They said, what was your opinion? He says, and I quote, well, based off the facts from the reports, and the facts that were presented in the video, it is shown that the techniques that were utilized during the takedown were unreasonable at that time.
Well, I would like to start off by saying that Mr. Delgado hadn't started the department until after the use of force. This happened in July. He started the department as a trainer.
Correct.
A couple months afterwards. So he was still with Pinal County. He doesn't know what we were being taught, what we were training to do. So I couldn't believe he was even being used. To show up after the fact and to be able to testify against me and what we were training is absolutely horrendous.
Now, the first use of force expert that they put up said that the use of force was good. And he even testified that it looked like the inmate was pulling away because they've all seen the video. Would you agree with that?
Yes, in both trials. Pruitt was the expert for the
Right.
state. He was very clear that putting the inmate in restraints, that myself and Sean being down in the yard, the escort, the takedown, everything was within policy and reason. He just didn't see on the video the reasoning for the takedown. But he said everything was within policy. He actually named the type of takedowns it was. The escort was good, put him in restraints was good. Myself and Sean being there was okay and within policy.
Sean, you were there, you saw it.
Oh yeah, I was there.
When he tries to pull away, he's looking up at Hasz and he's redirected. Everyone saw that. You saw it.
Mm-hmm.
You saw it. They saw it in what was the name? The one in the
Santana.
Santana saw it. They have called an ICS, right? Everyone saw it. Expert witnesses saw it on their side. Why is this guy coming by now and showing up and saying this? As the escort began in progress and reviewing the video, there was no evidence of trying to evade or trying to resist any kind of movement, right? And that's when you used the only move applied was the movement from you to place him against the wall. So he didn't even see that or consider it.
Yeah, he didn't see him stepping on my feet, crossing over
No,
across my
he didn't
body.
say, Colin, you gonna say something?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I'm good.
So, our experts, Pruitt, their expert,
Yeah.
all say it's good, as we know. I say it's good. He says
And
it
they
is.
saw that movement.
And they saw that movie.
Everyone
And
saw it.
Delgado, this guy,
Yeah.
who came to the department after as a training officer 3, right?
Yeah, but mind you, he's ex-SWAT ninja and all this other stuff.
And he-
right?
and
His
This is his
ninja
self-defense
skills
stance.
and everything like that,
Yeah.
and all that, decides to go up on stand and say that everybody else is wrong. All the experts are wrong, all the officers involved are wrong, and says there's no evidence, there's no reason.
Hold on. You're saying that, but let me tell you what he says. I'm going to tell you what he said. Here's his reason. I hear you guys' reason. I'm all for you, but this is your expert witness for the state that works for Thornell. They ask him, do you recall how to evaluate the escort? He goes, first thing, the escort that was conducted by what I saw based off that video, it was not any technique that was taught or trained at Arizona Department of Corrections at that time.
Which he wasn't employed there yet.
It doesn't matter. This is what he's saying. I had the chance to even review the curriculum before I changed in the end of 2020 to see if it had any relevance or training or any techniques that involved any type of proper escort technique that was not in any other training curriculum. So this guy, the ghost, mind you, he's a ghost.
Yep.
He comes and doesn't see that. But in the meantime, there's thousands upon thousands of other use of force tapes that show spontaneous take. Hell, we don't even hide it no more. We put spontaneous takedowns or takedowns, and apparently those he didn't see or didn't even. What made you guys so special that your technique sucked? Why do you guys suck so much? Why does your technique suck, but everyone else's doesn't?
Well, let's just put it like this. He talks about my escort. He says that only the way we teach is a two-handed escort. So he's talking about one.
Oh, we're going to get to that in a minute.
Okay, sorry.
We're going to put him on
But we're
video.
whistleblowers. And it's in the agenda of those working against us
Right.
that he goes up there and says, we were full of shit. We had no idea what we were doing.
I understand.
He was a hired gun, yeah.
Yeah. He even says if they ask him, the prosecutor, his boy, asked him, if I understood you correctly, you're stating that the escort was not according to any sort of taught that's a misprint. Any sort of training taught by policy or training, he goes, that is correct, because that type of escort never did not exist in any of the training curriculum.
Hold on a second.
Okay.
I'd like to point something out. During the escort that Hasz was doing, which was proper, it was proper, the inmates started resisting, becoming verbally and physically aggressive. At that point, Hasz did what he had to do to maintain control of the inmate and move him to the wall. And what they teach you in self-defense is that's exactly what you do. If you're going to move him to the wall,
right,
and he's resisting the escort, you do what you have to do to stabilize and isolate the situation so you can get it under control and remove the inmate and everybody else from the situation.
I have to thumbs up because the judge agreed. That's why we're here talking, right? You guys were exonerated. So now we're going to see a little clip here so you can guys know, according to this guy, I want to say douchebag, but I'm going to be more professional. To this guy is going to tell you now in his own words what you guys have been trained. Hopefully this is true. Hopefully this is true, or he's lying. This is him talking about the proper way to do an escort.
I worked both. I worked at a county jail for the majority of my career, but I also worked at a prison complex out of Tucson.
And then within both the county jail and within the prison complex in Tucson, specifically, what were your duties as it applies to use of force?
Duties for Arizona Dept Corrections during the time I was there, I was an officer. So my responsibilities were as an officer. I conducted the same normal routines that they do, making sure the welfare of the inmates are being complied with or being done, to include feeding, working the units. Specifically, they had me in the detention unit because I had experience working in detention units, to mental health units when I was at Pima County Sheriff's Office. So specifically, they assigned me to those units because I had a way of having a good rapport and developing rapport with inmates during that time.
Did you come to an ultimate conclusion about the reasonableness of the takedown in this particular incident?
Yes, I did.
And what was your opinion as to the reasonableness of that takedown?
Well, based off the facts that from the reports and the facts that were presented in video, it's shown that the techniques that was utilized during the takedown was unreasonable at that time.
And then from the cell front, the escort, what, if anything, do you recall about the escort and how you evaluated the escort?
First thing, the escort that was conducted by what I saw based off the video, there was not any technique that was taught or trained at Arizona Department of Corrections at that time. I had the chance to even review the curriculum before I changed it in the end of 2020 to see if it had any relevance or any training or any techniques that involved any type of proper escort, and the technique that was used was not in any other curriculum or training during that time.
Okay, so you bring up a few things here. You, in your current capacity, revised the use of force policies at the Department of Corrections?
No, I reviewed the defensive tactic training for the department.
Okay, so you reviewed and did you revise those policies?
Yes, I did.
But because of that, you had access to the prior administration's policies, procedures on defensive tactics.
That is correct.
And through your understanding and review of the prior techniques and tactics, policies, the escort itself, I'm talking just the escort, not anything after the escort, but just from the cell front to the wall, if I understood you correctly, you're stating that that escort was not according to any sort of taught policy or training.
That is correct, because that type of escort did not exist in any of the training curriculum.
And what type of escort did you see on the video? Like, describe.
It's just an escort that's just a normal person would just grab. So there's no technique involved in it. It's just a hands-on, they call it a hands-on escort, just having one hand on a subject or an inmate as they're escorting that person.
And what do you believe should have been the proper escort method?
The proper way should be it's called a CS grip or control system grip. Basically, you having one arm on the subject by controlling the other one with hands or some type of movement, so you can actually do a proper escort to make sure that it's done properly to wherever location you're trying to escort someone to.
So if I understand correctly, you're stating that a single hand wrapped around like a bicep or arm is not sufficient, that there should have been, the corrections officer should use both hands, one perhaps on an arm and another on the hands to control the inmate?
If you're going to have a hands-on escort, you want to have continuous control. If you're going to do a hands-on escort, you want to make sure you have one hand on an area where you can control and one on the hand so you can feel and be able to direct. And not only that, you can do it with verbal commands. Hey, let's go this way. So you want to have a proper grip and proper holds when escorting an inmate or subject.
Okay.
Right. So, okay, you guys saw it. The proper way it should be is called a CS grip. Has anyone ever heard of a CS
Never
grip?
heard that.
Have you guys heard of a CS grip? Are you going to tell me that this training guru is lying? Okay. It's called a CS grip or a control system grip. Basically, you're having one arm on the subject by controlling the other one with hands or some type of movement so you can actually do a proper escort to make sure that it's done properly in whatever location you're trying to escort someone.
Hold on a second. So he said one arm on the subject.
CS,
Yes.
CS.
One arm on the subject
And one arm on the hand.
And one arm on the hand.
Yes.
Or trying to control the person.
Yes.
So
Right.
basically what you're saying and what he's saying is
Understand, under oath.
under oath. First off, it sounds like
It doesn't exist, my
it doesn't
friend. You can
exist.
say it. This is what
But
we're doing.
basically, Hasz did exactly that. He had one arm on the inmate, and then he used his other arm also to help control the inmate to the wall.
Well, initially, if you watch the video, you'll see the escort started off with a single hand escort, right hand on his left bicep, which is how we do a hands-on escort. The minute he started to resist, I modified it to a double arm and brought him to the wall.
So let me say this.
So
Hold on. I gotta say it. You seen the training curriculum, the new one that this guy put out. Did you see the CS grip?
Did not.
Did you see the CS grip? Has anyone please private message me? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he's so ghost that he only gave it to some of you.
Yeah.
What is a CS grip, or better yet, what the fuck is a CS grip? Because we've never heard of it, never used it. And if that's the only way to do it, what happened to the thousands and thousands of uses of force that we've been doing since I was in the department, right? And then you guys were doing, and they're still doing, because we're going to release some videos that they're still doing, yet they weren't prosecuted for that. Only you two.
Not even prosecuted, but blessed and said, good job. Authorized, justified. I think you should talk about that right there.
Okay. So the prosecutor then goes, so if I understand correctly, you're stating that a single hand wrapped around like a bicep or arm is not sufficient, that there should have been, the correction officer should have both hands, one perhaps on an arm and another in the hands that control the inmate. And he answers, if you're going to have a hands-on escort, you want to have continuous control if you're going to do a hands-on escort. That's true. You want to make sure you have one hand on an area where you control and one of the hands so you can feel and be able to direct. That is not true. That is nowhere in the curriculum. He just made that up on the stand in front of everyone. This is a training guru that we're going to show his director who's testifying for a state.
That's embarrassing because it appears to me, based on the entire video evidence and audio evidence and written evidence of this guy's testimony, that he's just up there winging it, saying what he thinks he needs to say to fit an agenda. It's dangerous.
Well, Mr. Holland and Mr. Hasz, let me say this. In love and war, everything's fair. We expected them to lie. We did.
Sure.
And they did. What I didn't expect is that they would bring up a guy who works for them, for our staff, and that he had the balls to get up there and make these statements and just completely lie. And most important, I mean, we didn't do it because we have more Kuth, our attorney, but the judge catches it later. He starts catching his bullshit coming out and starts questioning, but no one interfered to say, None of that is in your curriculum. We're on camera. You said you promised to tell the truth and you didn't. You went up there and you're just slinging shit to fit that mold.
Do you think he's going to actually face any disciplinary for lying under oath?
We're going to make sure that he never testifies again. This guy should not be teaching, training, doing anything. I want him the hell away from my staff. I want him away from this department.
He needs to lose that job.
And he has to lose that job. And there's more to come. There's more. I'm just barely on the tip of the iceberg.
The lies, ladies and gentlemen, you all know how you do your hands-on escorts. To this moment in time, right now, has always been a single-hand escort in Pinal County, in DOC. He was in Pinal County for 17 years. They've always done single-hand escorts. Maricopa County,
We confirmed it with
DOC,
them.
yes, confirmed it. Right now, in this moment, Maury Unit, RAS, they're all doing hands-on escorts. Maury Red Side, 400 inmates are being hands-on escorted right now in restraints to the chow halls. One arm, not double locking the restraints either, remind you.